before an inmate ever steps inside the gates of Mississippi's most feared prison, before they hear the steel doors slam, before they feel the heat of Parchman sun baking the yard, before their name becomes just another line of prison paperwork. They must survive the transfer. And in Mississippi, transfers aren't routine. They're not simple. They're not safe. They are one of the most dangerous, unpredictable, and tightly controlled operations in the entire prison system. Most people never see it. Most inmates never forget it. And officers, no matter how many they've done, never completely relax. Because one mistake, one unsecured cuff, one inmate with a grudge, or one bus on a lonely highway at 2 a.m. can turn a transport into a war zone on wheels. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden world behind the Mississippi Department of Corrections transfer system. A world of armored buses, 3 a.m. wake-ups, surprise transfers, inmate politics, officer fear, and the silent, unspoken reality everyone tries not to think about. You're most likely to die in corrections not inside a prison, but on the road to one. This is the story of how inmates are moved into the legendary, feared, and unforgiving Mississippi State Penitentiary, better known as Parchman Farm. And nothing about it is simple before the sun rises, before the inmates of Mississippi open their eyes to another day behind steel and concrete. There's a ritual that happens in the shadows, a ritual almost nobody outside the system ever sees, a ritual more dangerous than a prison yard fight, more unpredictable than a lockdown, and more feared than the cells of Unit 29. It's called the transfer. This is the moment when an inmate's entire world is uprooted, when their enemies, their alliances, their comfort, even the small routines that keep them sane, vanish in an instant. One knock on the door, one officer with a roster, one order that sends their heartbeat into overdrive. Pack it up, you're being moved. But this isn't just any transfer. This is the road to Parchman, a prison older than memory, harder than the Delta sun, a place whispered about in every dorm, every cell, every gang meeting, part plantation, part battlefield, part graveyard. For over a century, the Mississippi State Penitentiary, known simply as Parchman Farm, has been a final destination for the state's most feared, most violent, and most desperate inmates. And before they ever touch its soil, before they ever see its gun towers cutting through the haze, they must endure one of the most dangerous journeys in American corrections, transit custody, a world of silent buses, armed escorts, last-second reroutes, secretless gang tensions, and backroad highways where one wrong decision can turn a routine transfer into a rolling catastrophe. Most people think the deadliest part of prison is inside the walls. They're wrong. The most dangerous mile is the one being driven in chains. Tonight, we unlock a system built on secrecy, fear, and survival, a world where inmates gamble with fate, officers gamble with safety, and everybody knows one truth. Once that bus door closes, nobody is in control. This is Inside the Transfer System, how inmates are moved to Mississippi State Penitentiary, Parchman, the dark before the move. In every prison in Mississippi, there is a time when the noise dies, when the shouting stops, when the car dip away, the radios fade to static, the dominoes are left mid-game, and the entire building seems to hold its breath. That time is 2 a.m., the hour transfers. Long before the buses roll, long before the restraints come out, the inmates feel it. A kind of pressure in the air, like the building itself is waiting for something to happen. On this night, inside a low-security unit 2 hours south of Jackson, a man named Derek Redbone Laster lies awake on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. He hasn't slept. He never does on nights like this. He doesn't know he's being moved. He just knows. Inmates can sense a transfer the way animals sense a storm. The officers walk differently. They talk less. The sergeants seem more focused, more clipped, more efficient. The tower lights stay on longer. And the hallway feels colder. Even the air smells different. Like bleach. Like diesel fuel. Like something sterilized and dangerous. Inside prison, men learn to read danger long before they learn to read law books. And tonight, the danger is thick enough to taste. The knock. The door slams open, and 3 officers step into the dorm. They don't announce themselves. They don't need to. One of them holds a clipboard. The other two stand with hands behind their belts, not touching their weapons, but close enough. The dorm falls silent. Officer, Laster, Brown, Hendricks, pack your property. A few men glance up. Others whisper prayers. One guy mutters, "Damn, they got red." Redbone stands slowly. His face stays calm, but his pulse pounds so hard he feels it in his jaw. "Redbone, where we going, Sarge?" The sergeant doesn't even look at him. "Sergeant, you know I'm not telling you that." He says it flat. No tone, no sympathy, just a rule. An inmate is never told where they're going, not officially, because information can spark fights, ambushes, escape attempts, or gang retaliation. So Redbone already knows the answer. But there's one word he's terrified of hearing. One word he hopes stays unspoken. Parchman, the scramble. When an inmate is selected for transfer, they have 5 minutes to gather everything they own. 5 minutes to pack their life into a mesh bag. Letters, photographs, state-issue clothing, soap, books, sneakers, legal paperwork, a Bible, a small radio with a cracked antenna, a drawing his daughter sent him 3 months ago. Everything else stays. Anything left behind will be stolen before the officers even leave the dorm. Redbone moves fast, but not sloppy. He puts his letters on top, the only thing he actually cares about. The rest is replaceable. Memories are not. Down the row, a young inmate named Trey Hendricks is panicking. It's his first transfer. "Trey, I'm not supposed to go nowhere. They said my custody ain't changed." "Sarge, listen." "Sergeant." Hendricks. "Move." Trey freezes. Then he packs. Every inmate learns quickly. Arguing during a transfer doesn't change the outcome. It just changes the escort from polite to violent. Transport mode activated. The inmates are handcuffed one by one and walked out of the dorm in a silent line, like a funeral procession. The hallway is freezing. Bright fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Officers line the walkway, hands near their belts, eyes focused. Every prisoner is watched. Every step is recorded. Every twitch is noticed. Because this is the most dangerous moment of the night. Moving inmates between units. During this walk, everything is vulnerable. The inmates, the officers, the chain of custody, the prison's internal order. A single fight here could close a unit for 48 hours. A single escape attempt could shut the prison down for a week. So the walk is done with military precision. Armed officers in front, armed officers in back. 2 tower guards overhead with rifles. Spotlights sweeping every angle. Cameras recording from corners. Redbone steps into the cold. He hears chains rattling behind him. He hears Trey's panic breathing. He hears the distant growl of diesel engines warming up. And in that moment, it becomes real. They're going somewhere tonight. And he already knows where. Processing, the room with no mirrors. Processing is a room every inmate hates. Not because of what it is, but because of what it means. Whenever you walk through that door, your life is about to change. Inside the room, 5 officers stand behind a long desk. Stacks of restraints lie neatly arranged. A scale sits in the corner. A body scanner hums softly. Plastic bins line the walls. One officer reads off a list of rules. No talking. No sudden movements. No questions. Look straight ahead. If an officer touches you, you do not pull away. If your hands swell in the cuffs, tell us immediately. If you can't breathe, speak up. If you try to run. He lets that sentence hang. Everyone knows what the end of it is. Another officer stepped forward. Redbone is pushed toward a table. His property bag is dumped out. Everything is inspected, logged, and either allowed or confiscated. Old letters? Allowed. Broken FM radio? Confiscated. Boots? Allowed. Black thread hidden inside a sock? Confiscated. A hand-drawn map of the facility? Major red flag. Trey cries out as they take his commissary snacks. Trey, man, that's my food, please. Officer, you don't need food where you're going. You'll get a tray. Redbone knows that's a lie. Transfers take hours, sometimes days. Most inmates go 20 to 30 hours with nothing but water and whatever they ate the night before. Trey doesn't know that yet, but he will. Strip search. Transfers require full strip searches, top to bottom, front to back, inside and out, no exceptions, no leniency, no dignity. In transportation, a single paperclip becomes a weapon. A single razor becomes a death sentence. A single pill becomes a riot. That's why the search is methodical. Remove clothes, lift arms, open mouth, shake hair, turn around, lift feet, squat, cough. Trey is shaking uncontrollably. Redbone stares straight ahead, emotionless. He learned years ago to leave his shame at the door. The search ends. Uniforms are thrown at their feet. Restraints follow. This is a process every man must endure before stepping onto the most dangerous vehicle in corrections, a prison transport bus, the waiting cage. After processing, inmates are moved into a temporary holding cage, a small metal room with benches, a drain in the center, and a steel door that locks from the outside. Redbone sits quietly. Trey sits opposite him, knees bouncing, sweating through his shirt. Two others, Marcus Brown and a wiry inmate named Gatto, sit in silence. Every few minutes, they hear officers speaking outside. Roster check. Bus is fueled. Unit 2 ready. ETA from Central Command? 5 minutes. Copy. Redbone hears one line that makes his stomach tighten. Pickup for MSP. MSP, Mississippi State Penitentiary. Parchman. He closes his eyes. He doesn't need to hear more. He knows. The ride they fear. The officers line up outside the cage. The door opens. Sergeant. All right, on your feet. The inmates rise. One by one, they shuffle forward, hobbling in leg irons, wrists chained to their waists. The hallway leading to the bus is long, narrow, and cold. Everything echoes, every footstep, every cough, every chain strike. When they reach the Sally port, the secure garage where vehicles enter and exit, they see it. The bus, a white MDOC transport vehicle with steel mesh windows, barred interior cages, reinforced doors, and a shotgun rack above the driver's seat. Lights flicker overhead. Officers in tactical vests stand ready. A transport lieutenant barks orders. Load them in order. Heads down. No talking. Seat them spaced. Transfers aren't random. Inmates are seated based on gang affiliation, enemies, behavior history, escape risk, current charges, psychological state, medical red flags, transportation priority. One mistake can turn the bus into a battlefield. The lieutenant looks directly at Redbone. Lieutenant, you go middle row, window side. That means they don't consider him a flight risk, but they do consider him dangerous. Trey is seated near the front, isolation. Marcus sits 2 rows behind Redbone. Gatto sits opposite him, legs twitching like he's rehearsing a future fight. The officers close the door. Chains rattle. The bus hisses, and the engine roars to life. The first rule of prison transport. There are 2 types of danger in prison transport. The danger inside the bus, and the danger outside it. Inside, inmates can turn violent. Gang beef can explode. Weapons can materialize from thin air. Handcuffs can be manipulated. Leg irons can be used as weapons. But the danger outside is worse. Ambushes, escape attempts, accidents, road spikes, gang rescue attempts, shots fired from passing cars, protesters blocking roads, highway attacks, and the ever-present threat of a crash. Highways across Mississippi are littered with stories officers don't like to repeat. Stories that start with, "That bus never made it." That's why every bus has 2 armed escorts behind it. Sometimes 3, sometimes more, and a transport team armed with shotguns, AR-15 rifles, pepperball launchers, tasers, sidearms, cell phone jammers, GPS tracking units. The ride to Parchman is not a drive. It's a mission into the night. The bus moves into the darkness. pulling away from the prison. Redbone leans against the cold window. Trey stares straight ahead, eyes wide, terrified. Outside, the Mississippi night stretches endlessly. Flat land, open fields, no lights for miles. Just the silent towers of abandoned farms and the occasional glow of a distant porch light. Inside the bus, the atmosphere changes. Some inmates breathe slow and steady. Some rock back and forth. Some whisper prayers. Some stare blankly. Gatto turns slightly toward Redbone. Gatto, you know where we headed, right? Redbone doesn't answer. Gatto smiles in the dark. Parchman, ain't no other reason they movin' folks at this hour. Trey hears it and starts to shake again. Redbone closes his eyes. He knows Gatto is right. Parchman, the place inmates fear, the place officers respect, the place families pray about, the place where men disappear, the call that changes everything. The yard is still humming. Basketball thumps, trash talk, the metallic clink of shackles on concrete. When the radios crackle again. Unit Bravo, maintain visual. Transfer team is en route. A cold ripple moves through the guards nearest the gate. Transfer team? That means two things. Someone's going somewhere today. That someone probably doesn't know it yet. Transfers in Mississippi aren't random. They're strategic. They're political. And sometimes they're punishment. A guard in sunglasses, Sergeant Harlan, a man built like a refrigerator, steps out from the admin building with a folder tucked under his arm. He doesn't walk fast. He doesn't need to. His pace alone tells every inmate watching. Something is about to happen. He stops at the center of the yard, lifts a hand, and the basketballs stop bouncing. Conversation dies. Even the men in the far corner of the field pause mid-rep. Harlan opens the folder. He reads a name, a single name, a name that, until 5 seconds ago, belonged to just another inmate trying to survive another day in Mississippi DOC. But inside the system, your name is your fate. Harlan, inmate Marcellus Boyd. Step forward, hands behind your back. A low rumble spreads through the yard. Marcellus Cello Boyd, known for staying quiet, staying out of trouble, and staying alive by minding his business. If today is a transfer day, it's not because of something he did. It's because of something someone thinks he did. Two inmates exchange looks. Someone mutters, "Inmate, damn, Cello, they moving you?" Cello's face barely moves. No fear, no anger, just a long exhale, like a man accepting a sentence he hasn't even been told yet. He stands up, puts his hands behind his back. Two officers approach with restraints, cuffs, shackles, chain belt, the full transport setup. And the whole yard watches, because this is where the story truly begins. Not with the transfer bus, not with the highway to Parchman, not with the intake cages. It starts with a question every inmate knows too well. Why him? The moment those cuffs close around his wrists, the prison shifts. The balance of alliances tightens. The rumors begin. The pressure increases. Because when a man is moved suddenly, unannounced, without explanation, someone, somewhere made a decision. And decisions in this world, especially inside Mississippi's transfer pipeline, are rarely clean. The camera cuts to a dark hallway inside the admin building. Two guards escort Cello toward the transfer unit. His footsteps echo. His breathing quickens. And over the audio, the narrator returns. In most states, inmate transfers follow strict protocols. But in Mississippi, the transfer system is a world of its own. A world where secrecy is policy, where danger is routine, and where every move, every bus, every destination, every decision comes with a cost. A steel door buzzes open. Cello steps inside. The door slams shut behind him. The camera fades to black. What really triggers a transfer? A diagram fades in, a spiderweb of lines connecting various Mississippi facilities, county jails, regional prisons, private facilities, and the legendary Parchman Farm. Most viewers think transfers only happen when inmates commit crimes behind bars. But the truth is far more complicated. In Mississippi, inmates can be transferred for over 24 reasons. Some make sense. Some don't. and some are never written down at all. Reason number 1, overcrowding. Mississippi prisons are some of the most overcrowded in the South. When a unit hits capacity, someone has to move. Reason number 2, security threats. Gang tensions spike, rumors of a hit, an inmate refuses to join a group. Transfers can be a life-saving decision or a death sentence. Reason number 3, administrative discipline. Sometimes you aren't punished with segregation. You're punished with relocation. Reason number 4, reclassification. An inmate might drop from medium to low security, or get bumped up to close custody after a single incident. Reason number 5, politics. Legislators touring a prison move the problem inmates. Media attention, shift the population. Pressure from the outside, transfer the loud voices. Reason number 6, retaliation. Unofficial, unwritten, but real. Former officer. Transfers were the easiest way to send a message. No paperwork, no fuss. Just pack 'em up and ship 'em out. Reason number 7, escape risk. Sometimes the inmate doesn't even know they're considered a risk. Reason number 8, medical or mental health needs. Parchman has specialized units, but getting there can take months. Reason number 9, protective custody. Inmates who are targeted or who have information often get moved quietly. Reason number 10, inmate requests. Yes, inmates can request transfers, but whether that request is approved, that's another story. Cut back to Cello sitting in a holding chair, chains rattling softly. He's staring at the floor, replaying the entire last week in his mind. Who did he talk to? What did he say? Did someone set him up? Behind him, a door opens. A lieutenant steps inside. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't explain anything. He just says, "Lieutenant, you're going to Parchman." Cello closes his eyes, not because he's scared, because every inmate knows what that sentence means. Parchman isn't a prison. It's a universe, a world with its own rules, its own weather, its own ghosts. And Cello, who has never stepped foot inside Mississippi State Penitentiary, is about to learn how that world begins, not inside the prison walls, but on the transfer bus, the bus that never stops. The camera cuts to a quiet service road behind the unit. Fog hangs low over the gravel. A chain-link gate buzzes open, and emerging through it is the one vehicle every Mississippi inmate fears, the Parchman transfer bus. Paint chipped, windows barred, engine rattling like it's held together with screws from different toolboxes. But the intimidation doesn't come from the machine. It comes from the silence around it. No guards joking, no idle chatter, no movement except the slow roll of tires against the gravel. Transfers aren't loud. They're cold, efficient, clinical. The bus hisses to a stop. A team steps out. For officers wearing black gloves and vests labeled transport. These aren't regular COs. These are specialist operators whose job is to deliver inmates alive, intact, and unescaped. Transport officers are some of the most disciplined in the Mississippi Department of Corrections. No distractions, no shortcuts, no errors. Because the moment an inmate van hits the road, it becomes a moving battlefield. The lead officer, Captain Renfro, walks straight toward the holding building. He's old-school Mississippi dosy, gray mustache, sharp eyes, not an ounce of fear in him. Inside, Cello waits in a restraint chair. He looks up but says nothing. Renfro, Boyd, stand. Cello rises. The chains clink like winter wind chimes. Renfro checks every shackle, wrists, ankles, waist chain, yanking each with a surgeon's precision. One rule in transport: if a chain breaks, someone dies. Renfro nods to his team. Renfro, move him. Two officers grip Cello's arms and march him outside. The sun hits him hard. He squints, trying to process where his life is going. Inmates from the yard gather at the far fence, watching. Some whisper, some shake their heads, some look away, because a transfer can be a rebirth or an execution. To them, Cello is already gone. EXT, back lot, continuous. The officers guide him toward the bus. Each step feels heavier. The engine hums like a beast waiting for its next victim. The officers open the door. A metal staircase folds down. Cello hesitates, not because he doesn't want to go, but because every inmate knows, once your foot hits that first step, the system owns you. Completely. He climbs. Inside, the lighting is dim. The air smells like metal, sweat, and something else, something old. The camera pans across the interior. Rows of steel cuff benches, barred windows, metal grates separating compartments. And in the very back, a tiny cage reserved for the highest-risk prisoners. A man sits there already, shackled from neck to ankles, head tipped down. But we'll get to him later. For now, the officers seat Cello in the front mid-row. They secure him to the bench with a heavy chain. Officer, don't move, don't twist, don't test the restraints. Cello nods. The officers leave. The door closes with a hydraulic hiss. And then, silence. In Mississippi, transfer buses don't run like normal transport. They don't go straight from point A to point B. They run loops, stopping at county jails, regional facilities, work centers, sometimes even hospitals. It's not unusual for a single inmate to spend 12 hours, 16 hours, even 20 hours on a bus before reaching their destination. And the entire time they are shackled, immobile, silent, watching the world pass by through bars. Cello glances at the other passengers. A man with face tattoos staring blankly at the floor. Another with swollen knuckles and dried blood under his fingernails. A young inmate shaking uncontrollably, fighting panic. And in the very back, the man in the cage. No one speaks. You don't talk on the transfer bus. Not unless you want your mouth broken. The bus starts moving. The first jolt shakes every chain in the vehicle. The engine growls deep and low, a sound you can feel in your bones. Cello watches through the bars as the facility shrinks behind them. For a moment, he feels a strange mix of relief and dread. He's leaving behind whatever problems were in that prison, but he has no idea what he's heading into. Highway POV. The bus speeds down Highway 49. Pine trees blur by. Storm clouds gather on the horizon. Thunder rumbles. The narrator returns. Few civilians ever see the inside of a prison bus. Even fewer understand what happens on it. But the truth is simple. In those hours between prisons, inmates are at their most vulnerable and their most dangerous. The first stop, Leflore County Jail. The bus pulls behind a small county jail, paint peeling, fence sagging. Two deputies come out with an inmate wearing orange, hands cuffed, ankles shackled, eyes hollow. When he steps onto the bus, he scans the seats. His gaze freezes on a man in the back cage. He turns pale. Whatever history they have, it isn't good. He quickly sits as far forward as possible. An officer locks him down. The bus door slams shut again. The man in the back finally moves. He lifts his head slowly, and for the first time we see his face. Hard, scarred, emotionless, but his eyes, those eyes burn with something Cello can't read. Hatred, regret, ambition, or maybe recognition, because he stares directly at Cello. Not blinking, not shifting, just staring. Cello looks away instinctively, and the narrator whispers, "Every transfer has a wild card, somebody the staff doesn't trust anywhere else." And on this bus, he's sitting in the back cage. Thunder cracks overhead. Rain begins to fall. The bus pulls away from the jail, heading north, heading toward something darker, heading toward Parchman. And as the storm intensifies, the camera slowly zooms in on Cello's eyes. He's not scared. He's not defeated. He's simply bracing for the truth every Mississippi inmate eventually learns. The transfer is always worse than the destination. The road to Parchman never really ends. And that is the road most people never see. The road that begins with a name whispered on a radio and ends inside the gates of Mississippi's most feared prison. The screen fades to slow-motion shots of empty prison buses rolling down rural highways. Rain on the windows. Pine trees vanishing into the fog. A single shackle on the floor of a holding cell. For the men caught inside this transfer system, nothing is guaranteed. Not your destination, not your safety, not even your identity. One wrong rumor, one wrong name, one wrong day, and you can find yourself chained to a seat, heading toward a place that doesn't forgive mistakes. A low hum of the bus engine fades, and as the camera pans across Parchman's fields, flat, endless, ancient. Inside Mississippi, every inmate knows one truth. Parchman is not the end of the line. It's the beginning of a new one. Cut to slow shots of the transfer bus turning into the gates. The doors open. Chains rattle. Boots hit the pavement. And for every man who steps off that bus, a new chapter begins. One written in sweat, steel, and silence. A long beat. Then the tone shifts. Still dark, but now inviting the audience in. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe the world behind prison walls should be understood, not ignored, if you want more untold truths from the most dangerous corners of the justice system, the music drops to a tense, slow pulse. Then do one thing before you leave. Hit the like button so this truth reaches more people. Share this documentary with someone who thinks they know how prison really works. And subscribe, because the next story we uncover may be the one no one else is willing to tell. Thunder rolls one last time. The gates of Parchman close. This is blood and justice. And these are the stories they don't want you to hear.